This is part 6 of my personal story and experiences by Amyatma Das. At the end of part 5, I was still back in 1999 in my story, and I had just analyzed or tried to analyze where the multiple gurus were supposedly fit into the managerial hierarchy that Srila Prabhupada had established for ISKCON, and had determined that they just really didn't fit in anywhere. And thank you for your perseverance and continuing to take your valuable time to hear my story. Srila Prabhupada had often used a phrase, conspicuous by its absence, to describe when something very obvious is missing. To recap what I had just said previously in part 5, in my search of the Vedabase, I found not a single time that Srila Prabhupada ever discussed a future ISKCON that would have multiple gurus. So this phrase most aptly applies here. It is most conspicuous by its absence that Srila Prabhupada had never spoke of a future ISKCON with multiple gurus, and it is conspicuous by its absence that he did not give a single instruction, no guidance at all, on how such a system was to work. It is conspicuous by its absence that he didn't give any verbal instructions, what to speak of clear written instructions, as to where so many of the Guru Masters would fit into the hierarchy of authority structure within ISKCON. Yet he gave letter after letter, along with many verbal instructions for 7 years regarding how the GBC managerial system was to function. And it will be noted in the chronological timeline section, after Srila Prabhupada had selected the 11 men to act as his Ritvik representatives, he did write them several letters wherein he reminded them of their Ritvik position. Yet the GBC have told us that Srila Prabhupada had wanted that those men will become his successor gurus. Again, it is most conspicuous by its absence that Srila Prabhupada didn't mention anything at all to them in the later letters. He didn't mention anything at all to them about their alleged roles to become gurus soon. No pointers, no tips, no reminders of their duty to soon become an initiating guru, but he does remind them of their duty to become Ritvik. Very conspicuous by its absence. I do want to be thorough in my presentation, so let me also say that I also did a search for whether Srila Prabhupada had stated that he would remain ISKCON's one and only initiating spiritual master after his departure via this Ritvik representative system. The answer to that question is yes, with explanation. However, several things need to be presented to give a solid understanding, and that will be done in the chronological timeline section. Here, in short, I will say that he was asked how initiations were to be conducted after he departs. And he said he would soon select some men to act as officiating acharyas. He was asked if those would be Ritviks, and Srila Prabhupada emphatically replied, Ritvik, yes. With the July 9th letter, he selects 11 men to act as Ritvik representatives and then explains how those initiations are to be conducted. Let me explain that again. Remember, on May 28th at the GBC meeting, he was asked how initiations were to be conducted after he departs, after he is no longer present with us. He says he will soon select some men who will be Ritviks. 5.5 weeks later, he selected 11 men to act as his Ritvik representatives. And at that time, he gave clear, explicit written instructions on how those initiations were to be conducted. That July 9th letter was Srila Prabhupada's answer to that May 28th question. How will initiations to be conducted after he is no longer present with us? That July 9th letter is the one and only place where Srila Prabhupada had given any description or any answer on how initiations were to be conducted after he was asked that question on May 28th. He didn't give any description on the May 28th meeting as to any details or at all on how initiations were to be conducted after he departs. That was the GBC's question, and Srila Prabhupada deferred his answer to that question until he selects the men to act as Ritviks. When he selected the 11 men as Ritviks, it was then that he answered their question as to how initiations were to be conducted after he departs. And clearly that July 9th letter states that Srila Prabhupada will be the initiating guru. In the chronological timeline section, I reveal Srila Prabhupada's key statement that solidly proves that the July 9th letter was, for a solid fact, Srila Prabhupada's completion of his answer to that question, proving that the July 9th letter describes how initiations were to be conducted after Srila Prabhupada had departed. Thus, yes, there is an explicit written and signed statement given by Srila Prabhupada that he would remain the initiator guru after he departs. Detractors will want to dismiss what I just said, and they'll just say it's an insufficient interpretation made with a biased opinion. However, the key that I just mentioned is most substantial. You'll just have to wait until you get to that part of the chronological timeline presentation to understand what that key is and why it is the key to understanding what he was saying on May 28th, and why and how it provides solid evidence that the July 9th letter was his answer to that question. How will initiations be conducted when he is no longer present with us?